Hi. So we normally say at the end of a class, if you guys have been with us, um, we normally say goodbye with our microphones on. But I think it'd be really fun if we all said hello to each other. So please turn on your microphones and say hello to each other in your language.
Hello, each
Ciao.
other.
Buenos días,
Hello,
feliz
teacher
año.
Tim.
Happy
Hello, everybody.
Shake me the phone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, team.
Hola, hola, hola.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenos dias. Yes, thank you. And I've learned how to do this now properly. I've been practicing. So happy New Year, everybody. And if you would like, as I'm always complaining, please turn on your camera so I can see your beautiful faces, please. Ale Ibarra, hola. See, if you don't turn on your cameras, I can't say hi, Andreas. So good to see you all the way over in South Africa. Nice. There. That feels better. Thank you. You don't need to have your cameras on. I understand why sometimes, et cetera, but it does help teaching. It helps me get to know you. It helps you get to know each other. I ran into, I don't know if any of you know Rachel Lim. She lives in Malaysia. And we were teaching an ACI, 2 ACI courses. It was epic. We taught 2 ACI courses in 9 days with 1 day in between. So it was epic to go through 20 classes in 8 class days. It was it was epic, but at the end she shows up and she was like, hi. And I'm like, hi. And she goes, do you know who I am? And I'm like, no. Because I met her in person many years ago, right? And then I had to do like the little square thing. I had to look through one eye, and I was like, okay, all right, I know you from Zoom. Okay, I got that part right. And eventually, she was it. I figured out who she was. But it turned out that her son was in the class, and her son's 17. And no offense to everyone else that was there, but he was one of the most engaged students. He asked some really, really cool questions. Why are we talking about this? Oh, Zoom. It's nice to see your faces. So when I see you in real life, maybe I'll recognize you. And maybe you'll recognize each other. That's the more important part, right? So, good morning once again. Hi, Ivo. How are you? It's good to see you again. She was also in Malaysia too. But I recognized you right away. So where are we? Okay, we are halfway through. Halfway through what? Well, this thing called the 18 ACI courses. And if you're brand new, you're joining at an amazing time, because we're starting a series of 3 courses on the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. We're working on Master Shantideva's masterpiece. There's Tin as well. Hi, Tin. It's good to see you. And we're going to be learning how the title reminds me. I don't know if any of you read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is famous book from many of you weren't born yet, and it probably may not be in your language, but it reminds me of this book of like, here's all the things you need to know. Okay. And in some ways, it's very philosophical, but in some ways it feels very immediately real. Like, how do we, thank you, Gabriela. Don't forget your towel. How do we live as a bodhisattva? How do we go from the beginning to the end, right? And what is it like living like a bodhisattva? And what are all the things you need to know? Like, we've heard this word, in fact, like there's a song called Bodhisattva. It's a word that is it gets used in many ways in more general culture now, and people seem to understand generally what it means. It's not this weird Buddhist word, where other words we kind of have to be more like, like when we say the definition of bodhicitta, like the wish for total enlightenment for the sake of all beings, like what the hell does that mean, right? What does it mean to be I don't know, dependent origination? What the heck does that mean? You have to use general language. Like someone from Vietnam wrote me last night and was trying to translate it as manifest, like when you manifest something. I'm like, well, not really, but kind of, right? But people understand that word. Manifestation experts all over Instagram, right? You too can live the beautiful life that I have, living in exquisite hotels by the beach. And look how beautiful my husband is, or my wife is, and like you can have this Porsche too if you just know how to manifest. Like, well, yes. Yeah, if you know how to do that, yes. But it's much more nuanced in Buddhism, right? And I like to watch these characters, and see the ways that they're using seeds, right? In the ways that they're not. Or maybe maybe they're just trying to get people into some deeper teaching by giving them something easier, right? Oh, look, you can have my beautiful life. Look at the expensive clothes I have, right? And that's one way to attract people. So I'm not going to criticize it, I guess. But okay. But the idea of a bodhisattva, like who is a bodhisattva, right? What makes a bodhisattva? We have this general idea. Hi, Grace. Good to see you. And so what does that really mean? And how do we live a life of a bodhisattva in the world? Not this sort of like, oh, I'm super spiritual. You could become a super spiritual influencer on Instagram if you want. Right? Like, ooh, like I'm super spiritual. Like, yeah, sure, maybe you are. But what does it mean to act like a bodhisattva? What does it mean to think like a bodhisattva? What does a bodhisattva have in their heart? Who is a bodhisattva? I mean, that's a really interesting question. Like, what is that? Do you have to wear special clothes? Do you have to wear like a pin that says I'm a bodhisattva? Right? You take your bodhisattva vows and then you get a t-shirt, right? Or you get like a black belt, like a karate black belt, right? Now I'm a spiritual black belt, right? And so everyone knows that you're a bodhisattva, and we know it's not really like that. Because we don't know who a bodhisattva is, and who are those people, being a bodhisattva is also suspecting that maybe other people are, and you just don't see it. Okay. Like, in my limited experience, the deepest bodhisattvas, the practitioners, don't advertise. You don't know who they are. They just do good deeds. They just take care of people. You know, they don't wear an ACI t-shirt. Persis, I'm just joking with you. Right? You can please wear an ACI t-shirt. You can buy an ACI t-shirt from us and support ACI and help us continue our mission. We can give you all the ACI t-shirts you want. And sometimes the ACI t-shirt might help you be a better bodhisattva because you'll look down and remember what you're trying to become when you're having an affliction, right? My favorite one that we have is it says rejoice to survive. You know, and I've worn that several times when I'm having a grumpy day. Like, just be fucking happy. Damn it. You know? And inside I'm saying those things and I'm like, hi everyone. But how does one truly embody what a bodhisattva is? And how do you live that way? And I think a lot of us have this deep wish already within us. It's not like, oh, you're going to listen to these words that Tim says, and then you're going to be like, oh, I want to be a bodhisattva. Like, it doesn't quite work that way. Like, I feel like so many people have that desire in them already. Like, you want to take care of others. You want to serve others. You want to open your heart. And you've seen, I imagine, what that does, the results, the immediate temporal, like immediate causes, and then more of the long results and more of the long-term results. Like, you know that there's change is possible. You know that in your heart, you probably know that the world will be a better place if you could be a better bodhisattva. Right? Natalia's like, yep. But then there's this thing of like, well, but I have my needs, Tim. Like, I got to take care of me, right? You know, I have my own problems. I have my own challenges. Things don't work out for me the way that I expect them to work out for me. You know, please come whining to me about that because we all have that problem. Nothing really works out the way you expect it to work out. You know, you met your love of your life last month and then they don't like you anymore the next month. What? How's that possible, right? Or you have a 20, 30-year marriage that ends, or your health never is exactly what you want, you know, or, you know, your happiness level, like, yeah, you want to help other people, but you're maybe just not happy enough, right? Or that you really know the deeper pains of life and you understand that it doesn't make sense sometimes. Like, how can one country be living in joyful bliss and then 200 miles away, someone else is being bombed out of their minds? Right? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. You know, how can I be happy over here in the world that's appearing for me, right? When I know that 200, 300 miles away, people are being bombed. What? Like, how can I be happy? How can I be happy in that? And is it okay to be happy? Is it okay for me to be joyful when other people are suffering? You ever get criticized for being too happy while the rest of the world falling apart? Or even you're somehow in a good mood while everybody else isn't, and everyone's like, what's wrong with this person? Or you see the shit around you, you see all the crap, and you're still not like affected by it. Like that feels kind of weird. Or maybe you understand it a little bit, and then you are the one who's out there helping, and you're in a good mood. Bombs are falling around you, and yet you're like, well, that's what it is today. Let's go help some people that need to get pulled out of the rubble, like in Japan after an earthquake, or people getting pulled out of a burning airplane, right? Like how do you live as a bodhisattva? Do you go running towards every problem? Do you go running away from every problem? Do you approach slowly? Do you approach quickly? What's in your mind? What's in your heart? Right? And Shantideva answers all these questions for us. Okay. How to live a good life, how to be a good person, how to be a deeply spiritual person. And then how to also live in the world. Like, how does a bodhisattva go off on their own and just, live by themselves in a cave? Or is the bodhisattva the homeless guy on the side of the street in the city sitting in his own poop, begging for money? Or is it just your normal neighbor who mows the lawn and has a family with 2.5 kids? Okay. Who? Like, what does a bodhisattva look like? And I think the interesting question for us and each of you is, how do you want to look like? Like, what shape, what form do you take to be a bodhisattva? Like, will you start dressing a little bit differently sometimes? Or will your life look exactly the same? I think this is an interesting question for us. Like, when we imagine, oh, I'm going to become a bodhisattva, or I'm going to be, for a better angle, like when I become a Buddha, right? When I become this being totally enlightened, right? Okay, what the hell does that mean, right? When I become a being who's capable of taking care of all beings at the same time, what will I look like? What would you look like? How are you going to appear? Hi, Antonio. It's good to see you. All right. Okay. How do you want, and then there's all these things like that we can't seem to control. Now here's the next thing. This is where it's, how can you control things? Let's start with our bodies. Can you control your body? It looks like it, right? I want to have a sip of my Earl Grey tea. All right, picked up the cat cup, meow, right? I put hot water into it, right? I put the tea bag into it. I pick it up. I'm going to put it to my mouth. I'm going to open my mouth. I'm going to make the shape that my mouth needs to pour water into it so it doesn't go down onto my clothes, which if you look at my pants, which you can't, has last night's dinner on it, which I just realized. Okay. So apparently I can't control as much as I thought. That's funny. Like it feels like I have control, right? It feels like I just was like, I'm going to pick up this cup and I'm going to drink it. All right. But do we really have control over that? Right. Yes, my mind said I'm going to drink and I do all those things and then I pick it up. Right. But there might come a time when you don't have control of your body. Right. And if you've ever gotten sick, you probably you can go from excellent to out of control in 0.3 seconds. Okay. It happened to me the day I got back from Malaysia. Okay. I'm not going to describe it to you. You can just imagine. But the worst pain I've ever had in my entire life, it lasted for 10 minutes. I was screaming in pain. I was sweating. I had a fever. I was hyperventilating. I was out of control. The only thought I had was, will I be able to make it back to my bed to grab my phone to call an ambulance if I need it? And the place I was in, I was like, I don't think I could even get back there. Okay. Right. Okay. It lasted 10 minutes. Right. Okay, great. Purification. Wonderful. Right. It was 3 a.m, just anyway, but understand that we really don't have control of our bodies. And you never know, right? Imagine, in the original class, the original ACI 10 was taught in 1997. I was listening to it the other day, and I was like, in the opening of the class, Geshe Michael talks about his 15-year career at Andine International at the jewelry company. And he talks about how everything moves in a cycle and how the company was in a cycle, a downturn cycle, where they were on top of the world. They had bought their own building in New York. They had expanded to thousands of employees, right? They're making, $150 million in sales in 1997, right? This is really pre-internet, folks. Okay. Right. And then the company, something happened, and the seed started wearing out and the company started failing. And they, and people were just like, the way he describes it, they were shell shocked. Right. They were just like walking around like, what the hell happened? And then he said that they were like, people who had been there for 15 years were looking at each other and were like, you got old. It's like, yeah, we started 15 years ago. You got gray hair. And Geshe Michael's like, I don't even have hair, you know, and all these people are like, what the hell happened? It was great. And now it's not. You see. And then I'm listening to this class and I'm like, immediately I'm thinking, okay, where was I in 1997? I was graduating high school. Okay. I was, I was like, oh, what happened in 1997? Oh, I had my first kiss in 1997. I was like, I lived with my parents, and I was like, oh my God, that's like 20, what, 25 years? 2007, 26 years. I was actually only at that point 4 hours away from New York City, right? Geshe Michael's giving this guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life, which he had learned for many, many years, and I'm graduating high school. And I was like, oh my God, I've gotten old. Like 26 years later, like I don't feel like 26 years has passed. Is it 26 years? Yeah, 27 years, 20, something like that. Okay. But I'm like, I looked in the mirror and I'm like, yep. You don't look like you did in high school, dude. Of course you don't. right? Like there's more wrinkles on this face, the shape is different, you know. I still have my hair, thank God, so far, right? It used to be really white. Like it was like this is blonde, but it used to be like platinum white blonde. Okay. So that changed, right? I have to wear these stupid glasses now to see the computer, right? I'm like, in Malaysia, I got new glasses. I got two pairs of glasses, right? Because I can't, I couldn't see the computer as well. Even with reading glasses, it wasn't right. And so I got it fixed, right? And I finally put them on, and it was like a little kid. It was like getting candy. I was like, fine, I give up. I surrender to being old, right? I can see the computer again. I can see your faces. Before I was just like, right, I can, but I'm like, yeah, I got to wear these stupid things on my face now. I mean, I've always worn the stupid things on my face to see far, but not to see up close. But now I got to wear them, right? Okay, so that changed. That's annoying. But really, like, what happens? This body changes over and over and over again, constantly. And there's forces that seem beyond our control, right? And those of you who are younger, not that I wish that you understand this faster, but please understand this as fast as you can. But I think if you're here, you do understand. There are forces beyond our control. Like it doesn't matter whether you're 29 or you're 49 or you're 69. It doesn't matter because each one of us is living in a moment that could end in the next one. There are forces in play that are beyond our control. And you know this. And if you've made it long enough, you probably wake up and thank the gods that it didn't happen to you again. It didn't happen to you this morning. Right? It didn't happen this morning that you died. Right? Like the other night, the 10 minutes of pure hell realm was like, it's like, wow, that this could be the end, right? It wasn't. But it's like each day could be it. You're like, oh shit. Like, and then how do you choose to live that? And when you live in a world that is, there's examples of this every single day. It's really depressing, honestly. 7.5 earthquake on the west coast of Japan. All these people died. Their houses fell down. Next day, huge airplane crashes into a small airplane in Haneda Airport. 5 people die, right? Surprisingly, most of the people didn't. Okay, that's cool, right? Bombs falling in Ukraine, bombs falling in Gaza. Okay, those are just 4 examples of yesterday. Those are big examples. How many people had 10 minutes of destructive pain in their body where they thought they were going to die? How many people had motorcycle accidents? How many people got bit by a crocodile? Okay, why does Tim come up with that example? Because I almost got it. It's a story I'll tell you guys later. Okay, I met a crocodile. I was 5 seconds away from being eaten. I'll tell you guys that story later. Nope, for real, Tracy. It was a real thing. I have a picture of it. But how many, like, how many tragedies are happening every single day? How many people are just feeling depressed today? How many people were feeling really happy 3 days ago and then today feel like they can't face the world? right? So our bodies, first of all, are out of our control. It's the forces in our body are just out of our control. Thank God I have the somewhat control to pick up my cup this morning. I have the control to be able to take a shower and to sort of comb my hair and to put clothes on and to speak and to study and to organize a class and then, drive my car and do all those things, right? Those all seem like choices that I can do, but, when you look 27 years ago and I look at the difference between graduating Tim from high school and Tim now, like, where did all that time go? That's 27 years. I'm like, was I a good person in those 27 years? Did I do what I could have done? How much of that time was spent wallowing in my self misery? Between 1997 and about 15 years later, that's like 2010, let's say that. Most of it was just mindless. There was an attempt to be a better person, but I didn't know how to be a better person. Actually, the other day I was cleaning out I was in the middle of jet lag, right? And by the way, just as a side note, when you're in jet lag, do not make any emotional or life decisions. Okay. Hashtag go to bed. Okay. Go take a sleeping pill and go to bed. Okay. Everything gets better, right? Just if you're having a bad day, go to bed. Hashtag go to bed. Go take a Tylenol PM. Go to bed. Have a snack, right? Do all the things. Do all the things. Like have a snack, eat your favorite food, go to bed, and then let's talk about it in the morning. That's why a doctor says take an aspirin and call me in the morning. Like go to sleep, right? But I was cleaning out because I was in jet lag. I decided that I was going to clean out one of my cupboards over here, right? And in that cupboard from 2000, when was the last time I was there? 2003. Okay. I lived in Chile, on Santiago, Chile. And I brought back, they have a liqueur there. It's called pisco. They have it mainly in Peru and Chile, right? Beautifully expensive bottle, right? That, over the years I had drank just a little bit because I couldn't get it in the United States at the time. Right. And there's like this much left in the bottle. Right. I stopped drinking when I was like, what, 2010? And I don't know what it was. But I still have this stupid bottle, in my cupboard, right? Because I don't want to get rid of it. It's 20 years old, right? There's this much left of it, right? And I smelled it and I was like, oh, that smells delicious, right? And I put it back in the cupboard. I didn't want to get rid of it, right? But it's sitting there, and I'm like, this is like jet lag mind. I'm like, what are you doing, Tim? Like, really, what are you doing right now? And I'm preparing this class, and all that I'm thinking about is, who was I in 2003? Who was I in 1997? And have I made this life meaningful in the last 27 years? On a good day, I say yes. When I'm in jet lag, I just have to remind myself, hashtag go to bed. Because all the emotions will arise, all the normal self-cherishing, me, wah, 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 my life, my blah blahs will come out. right? Hashtag go to bed, wake up in the morning, and then be like, okay, it wasn't that bad. But that's not the point. The point is, did you, Tim, live a good life? If you died in the bathroom 3 nights ago, 4 nights, whenever the hell it was, 3 nights ago, and then you're laying on the bathroom floor and your body is falling into its death process, would you have said you lived a good life? Did you do what you could have done? And I'm not saying become this obsessive bodhisattva that has to do every good deed in every single moment. Anastasia, as she laughs, right? Right. Don't become an obsessive bodhisattva where you have to do every good deed that there is, because that's an affliction too. That's the other side. But, what choices did you make that were in service of others? And what choices did you make that were only in service of yourself? You see? And if you're laying on the floor and your body is starting the death process, what are you going to be thinking about? Are you going to be like Geshe Chikawa? This is ACI 14. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. The guy who, as he's dying, is trying to go to the hell realms because he wants to take care of them. But because of the good seeds that he has, he can't go to the hell realms. He has to go to a paradise. But in his heart, he's like, I want to take care of all of you beings, right? Even through my death, I'm going to take care of you. And he's like whining that he can't because he has to go to a paradise, which is a contradiction, of course. But you see, like, what's going to be going through your mind at the time of death? And do you want to be prepared for that? Because this class is not really, this class is not really about, here's the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. Here's the things that Shantideva has said. Here's the things, right? Here are the things. Like, that's not what this is about. Like, it's about the reality that you face and the reality that everybody else faces. Like, the reality is 27 years ago, I was a high school student. Geshe Michael was teaching this course, right? And 27 years later, I have the honor to be able to teach it for the first time, actually. And I'm like, what the hell happened in those 27 years? I can't remember most of it. I can't remember most of what happened. I can remember some of the good things, some of the people, a lot of the meaningless things. The pain, the suffering, the attempt to get out of it. And, making transitions to move from one state to another is actually quite challenging sometimes. Like, if I think about the friends that I lost because I decided I didn't want to go to the bar 4 days a week. I am a connoisseur. Okay. I could tell I was a connoisseur. Okay. I can tell you all about wines. I can tell you all about liqueurs. I can tell you how they pair with different kinds of food, right? I know how they mix together. I know what's elegant and what's base, right? Like, I could do all of that. The pisco sour. Oh my God. How delicious is a good pisco sour, Sandra? Okay. Right. If you know how to do it. Right. Or you could do a piscola, right? Which is just basically, I want to stay up late. I'm going to pour a whole bottle of Coca-Cola into my cup, and then I'm going to put pisco on the other side of it. Like, and I'm just going to drink it, right? Caffeine and alcohol, right? Great, great. Stay up all night, party all night, dance all night, right? Not a problem to go dancing all night, right? But then could you get up at 6 in the morning and teach your ACI class? There's a bar, there's a bar in New York for people like me. They open at 5 p.m. and they close at 10 p.m. Dance party at 5 p.m. I'm in. Okay. I'll go. Anyone wants to go? Let's go at 5 p.m. All right. We'll get some virgin mojitos. We'll have fun. Maybe we'll do an initiation in New York and do that. That'll be fun. But the main thing is, where does the time go? Who of us is the first one who's going to die? This is the thing I did not want to say, but I'm going to anyway, right? Which one of us will be the first? Okay, which one will be the second? There's a picture from 2010, because I'm also preparing Lam Rim, right? If you guys want to come to that class, I'll tell you about that in a second, right? Gabrielle, it's so good to see you. She's like, oh shit, I'm doing something else. Nice. Oh, nice. Okay, that's cool. I can handle that. And when we took the picture, everybody wants, we took this beautiful group picture. And I remember we got the pictures passed out, and Geshe Michaels, as we're getting the pictures, everyone's all like, oh, it's so nice. We're all warm. We love each other. It's so lovey-dovey, right? We were in Prescott, Arizona. And Geshe said, which one of you is going to be dead when you look at this picture in 10 years? And we were like, oh. It's like, what? Which one of you is, when you look in this picture in 10 years, is going to be dead? And I was like, oh. And I looked at the picture. Yeah. Some of those people are not with us anymore. In a group of 120, several of those people are not with us anymore. Right? It's like, which one of these Zoom calls which one of these people here am I not going to see next week? I hope to God that doesn't happen, right? Right. But whose camera won't turn on next week? Not because you're lazy and you're not turning on your camera because you're doing something else, right? But you just can't turn on your camera, right? And I'm trying to be a little lighthearted about it, but it's true, and it's true. And then, so our bodies are failing, right? And then our minds fail too. Are we really happy? Like, how long does your happy, like when you have a good day, how long does the happiness last? 10 minutes? Maybe, right? Maybe 10 minutes. And then you want something else. Your mind, the nature of your mind wants something else. The afterglow, right? How long does the afterglow last for? 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Maybe you go to sleep for a couple hours. And then you just want it again. Or you didn't get enough of it. You see. And our nature of our minds is that it's not happy, it's not satisfied. They're never satisfied. Right? And if you did ACI 4, which many of you have done, right? You also may have come to consider very deeply that death is not the end of the mind, right? The mind and the body are intricately related and they're a basis for each other, but they're, at the time of death, then it goes on. And then when it goes on, then you're like, well, shit, what happens afterwards, Tim? Well, what happens afterwards? What comes out afterwards? What seeds ripen afterwards? Oh God, well, what's that going to be like? And then the game is totally different, right? What happens afterwards? You have a lot of seeds left over. What comes out? What comes out next? And if you're only a lower medium scope practitioner from Lam and you're worried about your own death and what's happening for you next, that is completely sufficient to live a good life, taking care of other people, right? But then a bodhisattva goes, okay, everyone's in this situation, everyone, including the little ants in my room. We're all in that situation. And then how do we live a good life? How do we live a good life that we can prepare ourselves for the seemingly inevitable? And then there's this other inevitability that if you practice well, you can start changing your own body and your own mind into something different. Right? You could change, by having deeper realizations, by moving your prana in different ways, by caring for other people with wisdom, you can start changing your body. You can start changing your mind. You can start becoming an entirely different being. And that's the larger point, because then you can maybe become someone who could really help somebody. Because if you could get out of that cycle, then maybe you could really help people. So that's what we're going to do over the next 3 classes, ACI 10, 11, and 12, which we're going to do this entire year. Okay. And I decided to change my teaching schedule to make it more regular and more digestible. Right. So we're going to go slower. We're going to only meet once a week for the class, instead of doing everything in 5 weeks, twice a week, or 3 times a week, just to be more relaxed about it and to give time for integration, to give time for how do you apply this? How do you live this? Right. And then it just becomes more of a regular time that we get to spend together too, instead of just spending time in these short, like intense periods and then not seeing each other. I feel like it'll be more powerful for us to study like this together and to, to have more time together. Right. Because I really do miss you guys. Like, yeah, most of you guys don't talk during class, and I read your chats while we're, you just look at me and maybe you're listening, maybe you're not, I don't know. But, I can feel you guys, and I can feel your practice, right? And I can feel that we're doing something really cool together. So that's why I decided to change it this way. And the other part of it was I was trying to figure out how I was going to do this other project that we'll talk about later. But it's the other class that I'm doing on a weekly basis, and we'll talk about that at the end. Okay, let's get to the real class. Or maybe that was the real class. I don't know. Oh, is it Maria's birthday? Where is she? There she is. It is someone's birthday. Say hi. Say hi to the Spanish translator. Maria. Yeah.
Felicidades.
Yay. Congratulations. Thank you for translating. What a great thing to do on your birthday. Yeah. Yay, wonderful. We'll sing it. We'll sing at the end. All right, let's go here. Here we go. What are we studying? All right. What is it about being a bodhisattva, right? How do we become that? And I love this picture. Okay. The book we're going to be studying, repeat after me. I want to see your mouths moving. We're not turning our microphones because that would be a little bit overwhelming. I want you to repeat after me, and I want to see your mouths moving. You don't have to make any noises because I can't actually hear you. But please just make the noises. It's a blessing, okay? Here we go. Chanchub. Senpei. Chupala. Chukpa. All right. Chanchub Senpei. Chupala Chukpa. Even the one person who's using their Zoom avatar opened their mouth. So thank you. That was amazing. I got to watch the avatar speak. Okay. Anyway, so here's the book we're going to be studying. Chanchub Semba is a bodhisattva. Chanchub is enlightenment, right? Semba is kind of like a warrior, right? A mental warrior in a way, right? Pao is warrior. Pao Mo is female warrior. Okay. So it's like a spiritual warrior, right? On the way towards enlightenment, right? And that's why I love this picture, right? With a katana sword, right? Are you going to be carrying a sword around with you as a bodhisattva? Probably not. That's not the point. Okay. By the way, don't try to bring a katana sword into Malaysia. They will take it from you. And then it's a pain in the ass to get it back, but I got it back. Okay. I had to do mantras. It was fun. I got it back in 1 minute before the gate closed. It was really cool. Anyway, so Chanchu Semba is a bodhisattva, right? Chupa is like the activities, the things that they do, right? How does one act? Like the actions of a bodhisattva. The la means in, and jukpa means entering, right? So literally, this sentence means jukpa entering, la into, entering into the activities, the way of life of a bodhisattva, Chanshu Semba, right? And so we translate it as the guide to the bodhisattva's way of life. So that's the book we're going to be studying. And who is it by? Dun, dun, dun. Master Shantideva, right? So his name is, does anyone know his name in Tibetan? Shiwala. Nice, Anastasia. Master Shiwala, Lopan Shiwala, Gelse Shiwala, Kelse Shiwala, right? They call him Bodhisattva. Gelse means victor, right? King, victor, child of the victors, a bodhisattva. Shiva means peace, La means deva, right? La means angel. In a way that what we meant by angel is, maybe it's like a Christian angel, I'm not sure. Could be. But it's like the idea of Allah in Tibetan is what I was referring to a little bit earlier. When you start transforming your body and mind into a being that no longer has to go through the cycle of suffering. We'll talk about that later. So he's the author, Master Shantideva. And he was born in about 700 AD. We don't know exactly the time. The next book, we're going to be actually studying a commentary by, who's the commentary by? Let me have a look here, make sure I'm not screwed up. By Gyaltsab Je, Dharma Rinchen. Gyaltsab Je is one of the main students of Je Tsongkhapa, who, if you haven't been here, is one of the greatest Tibetan philosophers and practitioners of Buddhism from the 14th century. And he's the way that we practice today mainly comes from him. And he was also the teacher of the first Dalai Lama. And so one of his students, Gyaltsab Je, Dharma Rinchen, like the next throne holder, the person who was sort of, when Je Tsongkhapa was like, all right, it's time for me to retire, which he didn't really retire, but when he moved on, he threw the hat to Gyaltsab Je, right? And so the book, the commentary we're going to study is called The Entry Point for the Children of the Victorious Buddhas. Juk, the entry, Gyaltse, which I just explained, right? Children of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. Who's a famous Gyaltse now? Oh, wow. Venerable Gyaltse. Okay. You've seen many of her classes. Okay. Venerable Gyaltse, right. So that's the commentary we're going to study. So who was Shantideva? So we're going to give a little bit of a biography of Shantideva. Then we're going to do an outline of all the different chapters. And then we'll end class. So who was Master Shantideva? So, we don't have a very long biography of him. There's not much that we know, but what we do know is he was born into a very royal family. All right. And about the age of 6, he met a teacher who taught him, gave him a Diamond Way initiation pretty much right away, which is pretty cool. He did not take his 18 ACI courses. Or maybe he did, I don't know. But he was given initiation into a practice for Manjushri. Right, and he was given a sadhana, which means, it's basically how to reach. Like a sadhana is about reaching. How does one reach for Manjushri? Okay, and there's 2 stages to the sadhanas. There's the stage of, I'm going to practice to be able to meet Manjushri. And then I continue the practice that once I've met Manjushri, Manjushri teaches me how to become Manjushri. Okay. So there's these 2 famous components to any sadhana practice, right? The first one is about, how do I just meet these cool beings, right? How do I meet these amazing beings? And then how do I become like them? So you got to meet them first to become like them, because then they teach you how to become like them. Okay. And that's kind of the point of Diamond Way practice. Who do you want to meet? And that's where it's, there's all these different enlightened beings that you could meet. You can meet Shakyamuni Buddha, you can meet Vajradhara, you can meet Manjushri, you can meet Yamantaka, you can meet Tara, you can meet Vajragini, Manjushri, Maitreya. Who resonates in your heart, right? And so he got this beautiful practice early on. And he, as he was living his life, living this royal life, there was kind of an expectation that he would then move into the position of being a king, right? That's kind of the expectation. And he didn't want to, because he had these deep realizations already early in his life. And he didn't want to live a life like that. He didn't think he could serve people the best in that way. But by being a bodhisattva, when the people asked him to become the king, he realized that you also have to do what other people need you to do. Okay. And there's an interesting lesson in there that we could talk about. And so he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it, right? Fine, I'll be the king. Where? Like, twist my arm, I'll be the king. Like, and this is one of the things that, people who have great seeds like this, you can't stop people from wanting, you just have natural seeds for these kinds of things, right? And so it's like, we think about like Lord Buddha, right? Gautama Buddha was born in royalty, right? Shantideva was born in royalty, right? There's all of this, like, these stories of these high beings, who left Naropa, right? They left that life, but they had powerful seeds for it, right? So he's like, fine, all right, whatever, guys, I guess I'll be king. Okay. So the night before he goes to, he's about to become the king, he has a dream. And and in the dream, he walks into the royal throne room. It's elegant. The throne's at the other side. Walks in, and Manjushri is sitting in the throne, like hanging out there. It's like, yo, like, and I kind of imagine, this is how my world works. I kind of imagine Manjushri sitting there like Morpheus from the Matrix, right? Just sitting there like, like, welcome to the world of, and I just was like, I just imagined him sitting there all confident, tons of Nagyo, tons of divine pride, and Master Shantideva walks in, and Manjushri's like, you can't sit in this chair. You can't sit on this throne. And he's like, because you can't sit in the throne that your teacher's sitting in. And Manjushri's like, red pill or blue pill. He's like, and, he wakes up from this dream and he realizes that he can't become the king. Not because his teacher is sitting in it, but he realizes that that's not what his teacher wants him to do. That's not what Manjushri wants him to do in this life. And had Shantideva decided to become the king, he probably may not have written the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, which we're studying today. So maybe an enlightened being might have some insight about 2024. See what I just did? Okay. This isn't a story about 700 AD. It's a story about today. The story doesn't end with Master Shantideva going off to Nalandra Monastery, right? And then we're like, oh, that's a beautiful story. no, it's relevant to 2024 because Manjushri sitting in the throne room of the Matrix, okay, is like, Shantideva, you have to go do things to take care of people in 2024. And that's what enlightened beings do. Oh, by the way, and you also have to take care of people in 1357. And then you also have to take care of people in 2030 and 2020, 2253. Okay. So this dream, him meeting Manjushri, is relevant to us in a very, very powerful way. So Shantideva is like, I'm out of here. Peace out, everyone. And he goes running away to the monastery. Okay. I'm sure he wasn't running away, but he was just, I can just kind of imagine like sneaking out, through the secret passageway, running across the lawn into the forest, goes to the Landra monastery. Now, one of the things that he did there is he decided as a bodhisattva, and this is why we started the class the way we did. He decided to not, he did not reveal himself and his realizations to people in the obvious ways. He was just like, he wanted to blend in, right? He didn't want to be the showman, right? The person on the center of the stage. He just wanted to blend in. He didn't want people to know about his realizations. So he's hanging out in this monastery, right? And at the time, Nalandra had thousands of monks, right? And he had a nickname, and you probably have heard this, and his nickname is Busuku. And what does that mean? And this is one of your homework questions. Dushe Sumbawa, Mr. Three Thoughts, right? What are those three thoughts that he was accused of having? Only three thoughts. One, boo, is that he only ate. He only cared about eating. He probably had veggie burgers. I don't know. But I wanted to find something that was like, just eating, right? The second thing is busu, sleeping. All he likes to do is sleep. And then it's this cute little cat just sleeping, right? Cats sleep for like 18 hours a day. Mine do anyway. Okay. And then the cool part, busuku, the third one, is pooping. He only cared about eating, sleeping, and pooping. All right. And yes, I was able to generate a picture of a dog pooping. So there you go. Because dogs look silly when they're pooping. You'd look silly too if you had to poop outside while everyone's watching you. All right. So he decided not to reveal his extraordinary qualities. Right. And he just acted like a normal person who wasn't very educated, didn't know what he was doing, just kind of like doop to doop to do, right? In this busuku, this word dushe sumbawa, is also what they use in the monastery to describe sort of like do lazy people. Okay. Just being like, whatever, right? We know these kind of people. We work with these kind of people. We're like, how do you even have a job? Like, why aren't you fired? Like all you're doing is like do. You're not really doing anything, right? And so in this monastery, there's kind of a mix of people, right? There's the people who high realized monks, who knew that this guy was just pretending. Like they had the capacity to read his mind. They knew he was pretending. And then there were the people who didn't have that capacity and they were the ones who were judging him. So those who were judging him, which we learned in ACI 2 that you should not, right? Because unless you can really read someone's mind, do not judge them. You have no idea what's going on. Okay, but here's a bunch of monks who didn't do ACI 2 yet, and they were judging him. And they were like, let's, we need to get this guy out of here. He's useless. And they were like, well, we don't really want the bad karma of kicking somebody out. So maybe we'll just embarrass him and then he'll decide to leave. And so traditionally in these big gatherings, they would have these ceremonies, right? And then different monks would have to lead those ceremonies. And so then they had to do it by memory. It was this thing, like, you're not allowed to bring paper in. You had to memorize the sutras. You had to memorize the rituals. So they bring them in and they say, hey, Shanti Deva. They didn't even call him Master Shanti Deva. They were just like, yo, Shanti Deva, right? And they were like, would you like to lead tonight's ceremony? And he's like, well, I'm just a simple person. I'm not really good at these things. I don't think I could do that. And they were like, no, you could do it. Why don't you try? He's like, okay, I guess I'll try, right? And so they had set up, many of you have heard this story, they kind of set him up to embarrass him. And so what they did is in this big hall, they built a throne that, maybe 15 feet high, who knows? It had to be high so that everyone could see all the way in the back. Imagine thousands of people. But they didn't put any kind of way to get up. There were no stairs, there was no ladder, no rope, nothing. And they just thought it would be funny, to embarrass him, so then he would leave. So he shows up and, and imagine a bunch of, people together making a practical joke. They're kind of giggling, they're giggling a lot in the back, right? The three guys that did this. And he walks up to the throne and he's like trying to figure out how to get on it. The people are starting to giggle a little bit more. And then in a single instant, he went from at the bottom up to the top sitting on the throne. And everyone was like, whoa, how did he do that? And so he's up there and he, very modestly, he's like, yeah, guys, would you guys like to hear something you already know? Or would you like to hear something new? And they're all like, oh, this guy has it coming, right? There's nothing this guy could offer us. And so they're like, we want something new, Shanti Deva. Why don't you teach us something new, you smart, wise guy, right? And then they're cheering him on. Can you just imagine like all these people that are, thinking they're going to embarrass someone. And then, it's, probably have all done these things. So then he begins reciting the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life in poetry. It's very deep. It's very beautiful. And they're all like, they're all just like totally surprised, and they realize that, oh God, we made a huge mistake. And as he's teaching, they're just more and more enthralled with it. And they get to the 9th chapter, and it's a nice chapter on emptiness. And they said that because his mind was so expansive that he couldn't stay in the space. His mind was more expansive than the space of the lecture hall. And so his body started floating upwards, right? And they're still listening to this deep, deep explanation on emptiness. And as he's kind of floating away, like the guys who have the ability to, read minds, and the ones that have the ability to hear long distances, they're able to hear him as he keeps going, right? And he keeps teaching, and he kind of floats away out of sight, and only some of the people can still hear him, and he just disappears, and all these monks who were like, well, kind of screwed that one up, right? They're trying to piece together what they heard, because they had heard a masterpiece. They tried to piece it together. They tried to get it going. they started having debates. Well, were there 9 chapters? Were there 10 chapters? And the ones who had the ability were like, no, there's 10 because the 10th one's about dedication, and they're piecing this all together. And then somebody hears, oh, he's in South India, Nalandra's in Northeast India. And so they go send out a delegation and go find him, and they go find Shantideva, and they're like, Shantideva, we're so sorry, we're sorry, obviously, blah, 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 please teach us. And he's like, nope, I'm not coming back. But he does teach them in the moment 2 of his other books. And he said, oh, by the way, if you want a copy of The Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, go to my room, and there's a written copy on like small piece of paper in the rafters of my room. All right. And Shantideva goes off and lives the life of a bodhisattva. And there's a lot of stories about the things that he did, where he would just appear like a normal guy. There are 10 chapters. And he just never revealed himself. And eventually people would understand that this guy is a bodhisattva, right? Because he has such deep wisdom. And maybe he appeared as a beggar. Maybe he just appeared as a normal person. But then that's how he served people. That's how he chose to serve people. He didn't advertise, I am Master Shantideva. He was like, I'm just going to take care of you guys. And if I help you, that's great. That was his goal. So we're going to be studying Master Shantideva's book in the next 3 courses. And I'm so excited to do it the entire year. Okay. So we're going to go over the outline of the 10 chapters. And we're probably I think we're going to do the first 3 chapters in this class, and then we'll continue and finish the rest of the book in the subsequent classes. So what are those 10 chapters? And Tim has pictures for them because I thought it was fun to do. Instead of just giving you chapter names, I'm going to describe them to you. This one, what is the first chapter called? First chapter, you're all like, is everyone like, what the hell? Why? Minions? Why? Why? Right? Okay, get it? It's all about the why. Like the benefits of having bodhicitta. Okay, the first chapter is, why are you reading this book in the first place? Right? And there's a deeper meaning to why I put a minion here. You guys can think about it. First chapter is the penyon. Why? The benefits of bodhicitta. And then the second chapter is called Dikpa Shakpa, which is about how to, Shakpa means confession, but it also can mean baring your heart, opening your heart, right? And I like this idea that, you have to purify, confess all of your bad deeds, all the things that are holding you back, all the things that happen to you that have created a kind of difficulty in your life, right? Some of it can be, in modern language, you might call them, in which way, what traumas do you have, for example? What kinds of negative deeds have you done because of those things? What kinds of things have you done because of your self-cherishing? What kinds of things have you done because of your laziness? All of those things. In order to be a bodhisattva, you have to get good and at all the things that are in your way, all the obstacles that have been created for you, the ones you had control over and the ones you had no control over. Okay, and most of them we didn't have control over. But open your heart, expose it, shakpa. Bare your heart and say, well, this is who I am, right? This is where I came from. And it's okay. And it's not a guilt trip. And it's not a thing to be like, to worry about or to think you're a bad person. None of those things. Like, if you're in this class, you are a good person. Okay. If you want to become a better person, you're a good person. Yeah, you make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I mean, I make mistakes all day long. But bare your heart, open it up, confess, purify those bad deeds. So then you can then, because in order to have the realizations, to have the deep meditation, to be able to truly take care of other people, you have to let go of those things. Those things can no longer have control over you. And there's a process and there's a way to do it. And it's beautiful. And it can be difficult sometimes, right? And we have to step by step move through that. And then the third chapter is all about collecting all the good energies, right? When we talked about in the beginning that there are forces that are in play that are causing us to move through this life in an uncontrolled way. Eventually, everything that starts has to end. Every good thing comes to an end. So we have to, we can work with those forces, and we can also work for the forces of collecting good energy, collecting good causes. You know, how do we collect the if as we're becoming bodhisattvas, how do we collect the necessary causes to have that wish become stronger and stronger within us? Okay. And it's mainly how to think like a bodhisattva, how to act like a bodhisattva. You know, how special meditations on how to charge the practice, how to draw in the spiritual energy of the universe. Okay. That's my Sedona way of saying it. Okay. How do we draw in all the good qualities in advance to be able to move forward? That's chapter 3. Chapter 4 is called using carefulness. All right. And what this means is that when you become a bodhisattva and when you start these practices, you have to do it with great care. Why? Because it's a new skill. It's a new way of being. It's fragile. You have to be careful to protect it. Nobody really knows you're doing it. And it's fragile. So in this, just like this game, right? Like you could easily knock over the Jenga tower, right? And so you need to protect this newfound way of being. And this is a battle, guys. This is a battle, and this is not easy because you're battling against ages and lifetimes of self-cherishing and of behavior that's not aware of what a bodhisattva can do and what the causes of being a bodhisattva result in. Okay. That's the 4th chapter. The 5th chapter is, it's kind of like, it's called Sheshin. It's not called Sheshin. It's called Sheshin Sungwa. All right. And if you remember from meditation, like what is Sheshin? Does anyone remember? Right, it's the alarm, right? It's the alarm that goes off in your mind that's like, whoa, 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 you're self-cherishing. In meditation, it's the alarm goes off and says, oh, you're not on the object. All right, you're like, whoa, we were supposed to be meditating about on the Lama's eyes, and I'm thinking about pancakes. All right, thinking about coffee, right? All those things. So the alarm goes off in meditation to bring yourself back. Recollection, Drempa, brings you back. This chapter is about the alarm going off. Sheshin is spelled like this. It's, I think, share, no. Share, sorry, shit. Oops. Sorry, I didn't put in the right. Shin. In Tibetan. Okay. So when you are practicing as a bodhisattva and the alarm goes off when you're self-cherishing, for example, or when you're being lazy, or when you're doing something out of, you're not helping someone because you're angry. Okay. The alarm goes off and is like, hey, yo, you're not doing it. And then and then the drum pod comes back and reminds you, recollects and says, yeah, you should be doing something different. Whole chapter dedicated to that. Pretty damn cool, actually. This is why you need to meditate, to develop that skill. So you can reel the puppy in when you're in the middle of a disaster. Okay. The next chapter is Suppa Tenpa, not getting angry when you should, which is the third perfection. Patience. Patience is a bad translation. It's not patience in the normal sense of patience, like I'm patiently waiting in line. It's about not getting angry when you otherwise would. Okay. Whole chapter dedicated to patience, Suppa, not getting angry. The 7th chapter is Shundatempa, joyful effort, taking joy in spiritual things, making the effort. Right? I love this guy dancing. And I also love that he has cat hair all over his suit, which means he has cats. And he loves his cats. Okay. That's Tim in like 50 years. All right. Actually, he has similar glasses. Here, I got new glasses. Have a look. His glasses are similar to mine. I didn't realize that. See, got my new glasses. Joyfully new glasses, right? So here's this old guy, right? Joyful effort. A whole section on how to take joy in spiritual things, right? The next one is called Samten Tempa, right? Meditative concentration, a whole chapter on how to meditate, right? Because you need to be able to meditate to be able to do all these things. Chapter 9 is Sherab, wisdom. Okay. It's all about emptiness, all about the wisdom of emptiness. And wisdom is feminine in Tibetan, in Buddhism. And then the 10th chapter is the dedication, giving away the good seeds. All right. Use the images to memorize the chapters. That's how I memorize them. Okay. So question, how many chapters are dedicated to the perfections? Wow. Let me ask a different question. How many chapters are named after the perfections? We got 4. All right. We have patience, not getting angry. We have joyful effort. We have meditation. And we have wisdom. Do you think Shantideva skipped the other 2 chapters, or the other 2 perfections? Ethics and generosity? No, of course not. Where do those show up? Where do you guys think? In all the other chapters, where do you think they show up? I'm going to let you guys think about it, and we'll talk about it next week. Okay. Do your homework. And in the 10 chapters, where do you think perfection one, generosity shows up? And where do you think an ethical way of life shows up? And we will discuss it next week. Okay. So cool. Thank you for joining class 1 of ACI 10. If you would like to stay, in a half an hour, I'm starting a new class. It's called Living Lamrim. What does that mean? We are going to be studying Pamonka Rinpoche's gift of liberation thrust into the palm of your hand. And we're going to start from Lamrim 1. We're going to start from the chapter on meditation. And we're going to spend years studying this book. So relax. We're not going to do the whole Lamrim in 10 weeks. We're just going to chill out. We're going to go through it. Different type of class. Part of it's translation. Part of it is how to live a Buddhist life in your day-to-day life outside of the philosophy. So if you'd like to join, that's at 8 o'clock in a half an hour. Thank you all very much for joining. It's same Zoom link. You don't have to go anywhere. You can go get some coffee or something. Thank you all for joining so much. Thank you, translators. Thank you, tech team. Thank you, admins. Thank you, ACI staff. Looking forward to a wonderful ACI class. And let's say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in a half an hour.
Muchas gracias, Tim. Hasta ahora.
再见，老师，拜拜。
Let's stop, everyone.
Thank you.
No, no, you can say goodbye, but we have to do something. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You should say happy birthday.
Cumpleaños
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Birthday,
Maria.
Maria.
Feliz
Cumpleaños
Happy birthday.
Nos deseamos, María
Happy birthday to you.
Bravo.
Bravo.
Mucho amor para todos. Lots of love for everyone. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you, translator.
生日快乐 Gracias.
All right, guys, I'll see you in a half hour if you're sticking around. If not, have a wonderful rest of your day.